462, will you bring that to our attention, please?
Yes. Proposal Appeal 3462 is submitted by Michael and Kara Williams for the property located at 125 2nd Street. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow multiple uses, businesses, but not more than 3 in the same structure building pursuant to Article 20, Section 20.030, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. The property is zoned Central Business District. All adjoining property owners have been notified. We received one call about the property not related to the conditional use permit. Article 20.
Mr. Davis, I need to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Davis, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Article 20, Central Business District, does allow multiple uses, businesses, but not more than 3, may be allowed in the same structure, building, with a conditional use permit under Section 20.030. The applicant, in filling out their conditional use permit, states that the requested conditional use permit is justified because it is an essential use in that it maximizes the use of the property while meeting the zoning requirements to maintain the integrity of downtown business district. The conditional use would promote public health and safety or welfare by adding needed mixed use and residential units in the central business district while maintaining the approved requirements of the zoning regulations promoting future economic development. Conditions that would eliminate or minimize adverse effects of the proposed use in the zoning district are: A, promote residential living in the central business district. B, maintain the visual appearance desired in the central business district. C, provide an economic investment in the central business district. D, be a catalyst for other types of development in the central business district. And E, eliminate a vacant structure in the central business district. Staff has reviewed the request. We forward the application to the board for your consideration, action, and any additional conditions that you deem appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? If not, will the applicant approach the podium, please? Please sign in with your name and address. Thank you. Would you both please state your names?
Michael Williams.
Kara Williams.
Mr. and Mrs. Williams, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anything that you would like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony, please? Oh, okay. Does this board have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Williams?
Are you intending residential use, such as renting an apartment?
It'll be 2 condominium units on the 2nd and 3rd floor.
Okay, and on the first floor?
First floor will be commercial.
Okay. Thank you.
Access to those apartments will be from where?
From the front side of the building and from the back.
Okay.
Garage.
Are there any other questions?
Did you say garage? Is the garage in the building?
Yeah, it would be added on to the back of the building.
It would be within the footprint of the building or added on?
Partially added on.
Okay.
Partially inside.
Are there any other questions for the applicants?
If adding that on, isn't that considered an alleyway right through there?
So there's 10 feet that we own behind our building. There's some other buildings on that block that extend out to the alleyway. They're already, I guess, have been added on. And then ours has 10 feet, and then we have the alley.
So you would not encroach on the...
Oh, no.
No.
Any other questions? Does this board have any other questions? If not, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, you may be seated. Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3462? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 6442? 3462. If there is no one here to speak for or against Appeal 3462, do you have anybody online? Okay. If there is nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3462, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I move that we grant appeal number 3462 for a conditional use permit to allow multiple but no more than 3 business uses in the same structure for the property located at 125 2nd Street with the following conditions. Adequate off-street parking will be provided in a parking lot adjacent to the building with a suitable number of parking spaces as provided by the zoning ordinance. All occupants of the building will be limited to use, the commercial part of the building, excuse me, let me start number 2 again. All occupants of the building in a commercial use will be limited to using the building for purposes permitted under Article 20, Section 20.01 of the zoning ordinance. Businesses occupying the structure will be limited to business hours 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, weekdays with hours by appointment on the weekend. Any structural improvements or renovations must be approved by the City Codes Administrator. Any signage used in any of the occupants of the building will comply with the signage ordinance of the City of Henderson. This conditional use permit is for the property owner. The evidence submitted through the written documents attached to the appeal and submitted through the testimony at the preceding hearing confirms, and we find, property is owned as part of the CBD, Central Business District, which is intended to enhance and protect convenient areas for shopping in the Central Business District of the city. The respective uses of the structure will meet the goals set forth in Article 20, Section 20.02 of the zoning ordinance. Use of the structure for up to 3 businesses is permitted as a conditional use under Article 20, Section 20.03 sub O of the zoning ordinance. The probable new businesses will bring at least two new businesses to the downtown Central Business District.
May I get a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion among this board? If not, I'll ask for a vote.
Matt,
Yes.
Heather, Landon,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, Appeal 3462 has been granted in your favor. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Our next appeal, 3463, has been pulled, so we'll jump to the next appeal. Mr. Davis, will you tell us about Appeal 3464?
Sure. Proposed Appeal 3464 is submitted by Evansville Teachers Federal Credit Union for the property located at 349 Starlight Drive. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the existing sign size by 18.3 square feet pursuant to Article 10, Section 10.16, Exhibit A, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. Property is zoned general business. Appropriate notices were sent to adjoining property owners. We have received no inquiries regarding this appeal. Maximum square footage for freestanding sign in the general business district, according to Exhibit A, is 75 square feet. The variance worksheet provided by the owner states that there are special circumstances for this lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone, in that the water retention basin in front of the property requires the sign to sit back further from the road. The sign needs to be larger to have visibility. Strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant for reasonable use of land, in that the allowable square footage is 75 square feet. It does not allow for the sign to be large enough to be visible and work with existing concrete base. Special circumstances that they state in the variance worksheet are One, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare in that the sign is far enough off the road to not be a visible hazard. Two, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that the sign is the exact same size as the existing sign except the logo portion is a bit larger. Three, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that it is far enough back to not cause any traffic or public nuisance. Four, the granting of a variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that if you were to look at the signs overlaying each other, there is a minimum difference between the two signs. The difference will not make unreasonable difference in the code and what is allowed. Staff has reviewed the request and submit the request for the board's consideration and action and any additional conditions you deem appropriate.
Mr. Davis, have you had any calls for or against this?
No.
Okay. Does this, board have any questions for Mr. Davis?
I guess the photograph that we're looking at there on the screen, is that the existing sign or is that the proposed new sign?
That's the existing sign.
Okay.
There's the new one, back up there.
Basically, there's a change in.
The thing that's changing is the logo on the very top.
Logo, yes, right.
Is the height of the Liberty portion the same height as the teachers' credit union
I
portion?
don't believe it is. I think it's taller.
Oh, it is, the bottom is taller than the
No,
existing?
the height of the total sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just the horizontal section, the horizontal rectangle. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's signed it.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Mr. Davis? If not, will the applicant please approach the podium? I will ask you to sign in with your name and address, please. Sir in the blue shirt, if you could state your name for me, please.
Scott Elpers.
Mr. Albers, do you promise to tell the truth? Thank you. And would you state your name, please?
Yes, Brent Joyce.
Mr. Joyce, do you promise to tell the truth? Thank you very much. Is there anything, gentlemen, that you would like to add to the testimony?
I do have a printout showing the signs side by side. If I could pass those out, would that be possible?
Yes, but if you pass them out, then they become part of the...
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stick you there, guys. So if you see the two signs sitting there beside one another, you'll notice that the main body of the sign is just a little taller. And that is because the credit union has got a trademark logo position that we need to try to stick with. And when you scale that out to the existing sign foundation, the brick base that's existing, it makes the sign just a little taller. So if you was to square off the Evansville Teachers Credit Union portion of the sign with the logo, and then square off, you know, the other portion of the new sign, the logo's just a little taller, creating that additional square footage.
But it will be on the same base, correct?
100%, yes. We're just gonna take the existing sign off, and then put the new sign over the existing foundation and steel pole.
Sir, can you bring the picture up with the old sign? Yeah. Does this have the possibility of obstructing signage from any other business?
No, sir. This sits pretty far distance off the road. There are two of these signs as well. They're two single-face signs
Okay.
currently, and that's what we would like to have as well.
They're angled, as you go through that curve, whether you're headed east or west, there's one on either side of the, west side of our property facing the 60.
Mr. Davis, this, variance is for, both signs, right?
I'm assuming.
Yes,
And both signs exceed the square footage by 18 feet.
They are identical.
there.
Will the
this,
sign be lit?
The sign itself, these have halo lit letters on the sign, so the letters themselves don't light, it shoots light to the back of the background. So the only thing you see is a halo of each letter. So it's lit, and then the logo itself is face lit, so you'll see light through that. But it's a real modest looking, elegant sign because of the lighting. It's a little dimmer than what would be the existing sign.
Did you catch that?
Yes, that was all I had.
Okay. Does this board have any additional questions for, Mr. Joyce or Mr. Epler?
Sarah, I think that if you go to Google and you type in Evansville Teachers Federal Credit Union, Henderson, Kentucky images, you'll be able to see how the sign fits in relation to answer the question whether it would block someone else off. I think it looks just like off, but that might give you a better.
One of the things that we watch is to make sure we don't get into a sign fight with two adjacent buildings, businesses rather.
Yes.
How does this compare with other requests for signs that we've had? Yes, I guess.
To be honest, I don't know of any sign that has been short period of time.
Like 3 months.
So, yeah, I can't tell you the background, what we normally do and don't do.
That gives you a laser pointer, if you want to show where the other side, I don't think they realize, but I think you can kind of see the sign over there. No, and that's the laser.
Okay. The other sign is,
It's significantly back off the road, isn't it?
yeah,
There's a retention basin out there.
Did I work it? Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
The signs are the exact same distance off of the road. And there's a water retention basin in the front of the property which pushes the signs a little further back. Yeah, the other sign is right there.
All right.
Okay.
Just not far enough to the left.
Counselor, thank you. Does this board have any additional questions for Mr. Joyce or Epler? Any additional questions? If not, you may be seated. Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3464? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3464? If there is nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3464, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion.
New sign is how many new sign is how many square feet?
It's 93 square feet.
93 square feet.
18.3 square feet larger than current. All right, I'll make a motion. I move we grant appeal number 3464 The variance is 3464.
Yes, 3464.
I move we grant appeal 3464 for a variance in order to allow the applicant to increase the size of an existing sign by 18.3 square feet to accommodate a name change and the addition of a new logo to the existing sign on the property located at 349 Starlight Drive. The variance is to be granted with the condition the improvement will not divert water onto any neighboring property, nor will it alter the natural flow of water. Evidence submitted through the written documents attached to the appeal and submitted through the testimony at the preceding hearing confirms and we find, one, the property is zoned general business district under the zoning ordinance. Two, the applicant is undergoing a name change and a new logo will be needed for the existing sign, and the design of the new logo will require a sign which is 18.3 square feet larger than allowed by the zoning ordinance. A required retention basin near the front of the property requires the sign to be placed further back, or signs to be placed further back from the highway than would otherwise be optimal, and the increased size is necessary for location of the business to be seen by the traveling public. Further, the aforementioned evidence presented showed the granting of this appeal will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, as the new sign will be similar in design and size with the current sign. The new sign will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, since the surrounding properties are also used for general business purposes and have appropriate signage, which is not dissimilar from the proposed sign. Same reasons we find the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion among the board concerning the motion? If not, I'll ask for a vote.
Max,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Landon.
Yes.
Mr. Joyce, Mr. Epler, Appeal 3465 has been granted in your favor. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening. Yes, sir?
3464.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3464 has been granted in your favor.
Thank you.
I'm already moving to the next one. Mr. Davis, Appeal 3465, can you bring that to our attention, please?
Proposed Appeal 3465 is submitted by Ekadashi Incorporated for the property located at 1500 North Green Street. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow construction of an 89 linear foot reinforced concrete cantilever stem retaining wall near the southeast property line, with the base of the wall at 5 foot 3 inches from the property line. The applicant will need a 16-foot rear yard variance pursuant to Article 27, Schedule of Regulations, Schedule B. The property is zoned highway commercial. All adjoining property owners have been notified. We have received no inquiries regarding this appeal. Variance worksheet provided by the applicant states that special circumstances for this lot that may be different from other lots in the same zone are that available space between building and property line is very limited. A retaining wall is needed to raise the elevation of the ground for the proposed drive-through lane around the existing building, while leaving room for a retention basin and avoiding a total blockage of the drain ditch along the property. Applicant states that the strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land, in that addition of drive-through lane is necessary for profitable use of existing building, and routing drive-through lane around the back of the building is the only feasible option for this location. Special circumstances that they state in their variance worksheet are: the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare, in that all protection will be provided the full length of the retaining wall. 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, in that the footing of the retaining wall will be well below the frost line of the existing ditch to allow for future improvements should they ever be needed to the ditch channel without interference of the retaining wall. 3, the granting of a variance will not cause a hazard of nuisance to the public, in that, other than customers using the drive-through lane, The wall will have no exposure to public traffic, pedestrian, or vehicular. Standing water has been observed in the ditch. Regrading at the base of the wall should help alleviate this issue. Staff has reviewed the requests. We forward the application appeal to the board for your consideration, action, and any additional conditions you deem appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Any questions for Mr. Davis? If not, will the applicant please approach the podium? Please sign in with your name and address. The gentleman in the red shirt, if you could state your name.
Mark Loney?
Loney?
Yes,
Mr. Loney, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you state your name, please?
Yes, sir, Shaitan Patel.
Mr. Patel, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is unusual. We have two left-handers at the podium.
Right. There's only 13 or 15 presidents who were left-handed.
Ah, okay.
My wife tells me that left-handed people are much more intelligent than right-handed.
Is your wife left-handed?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My mom tells me too.
I've sworn both of you in, right?
Yes,
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to the testimony? Okay. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Lowry or Mr. Patel?
I have a question. Just for my own edification, what is a reinforced concrete cantilever stem retaining wall? I know what a retaining wall is, but
Because the
reinforced
retaining wall
cantilever.
is only holding dirt on one side, or field.
Okay.
On the side. It's cantilever, the footing is cantilevered to the inside so that it doesn't put out.
So we've
That's
got
that's an engineering.
so we've got an L-shaped, and the dirt
All you're
goes
gonna
here.
see- All you're gonna see is,
Yeah.
but instead of the footing being centered under the wall, the footing is
Yeah,
more to the inside, so
this
that
is
it
the
doesn't
way-
push out.
this is the way the concrete will go in, with
Basically,
all the dirt
basically,
here
yes.
and here. Yeah.
I mean, there'll be a small portion of the outside, but it's a very small portion. But yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go home and explain that to my left-handed wife.
Well, don't tell her you learned it from two left-handed guys.
But yeah, it's just to keep the wall from pushing. It's pretty much standard procedure on a one-sided wall, that they don't have to build it.
And you, and as, Steve, pointed out in, the appeal, there will be, handrails, or there will be, protection so people can't fall over. Okay.
They'll have approved handrail, that's found with the engineer also.
Okay, OSHA.
Also,
Okay. Does this board have any additional questions for Mr. Lowry or Patel? Any other questions?
So, the extra, the 16-foot rear setback, that's because of the wall, correct?
Yes.
That's what we're, it's not the building.
It's not the building, it's not the pavement, it's the actual wall, because it is 5 foot, it's structure.
And basically what you're doing is you're doing away with a hill and a slope,
Correct.
flattening the land, and then just having a drop off.
Yeah, we're not changing the flow. We've already done all the water surveys, the drainage surveys, everything was. But instead of having basically we have roughly a 3 foot deep ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having a 45-degree slope, flat bottom, 45-degree slope, our side of the ditch, we're gonna have a wall.
Okay.
That's not gonna interrupt the flow of the ditch. Like the proper ball restraints across the top for the length of it. It's just so we can raise our elevation enough to make the drive-through work.
Okay.
We're not changing drainage. Everything still drains into our retention area. We're not changing any of that. Everything still has to come through us and then go out the approved drainage pipes, which has all been synced in.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hey, Rob, I've got a question.
Okay.
I noticed on the appeal that they said there was some standing water in the ditch, will that water be absorbed by the ground after regrading, or where will that water that's been standing go?
To be honest with you, truthfully, the ditch hasn't been maintained very well.
Oh, it's okay to say that.
It's up and down, up and down, up and down. Across the bottom, it's not very linear, and it just needs to be cleaned through our portion, which in doing what we're doing, it will be regraded and cleaned and flattened out. There is a portion below us on the next property that may need to be addressed later. Has nothing to do with what we're doing, actually.
But on your property, you're gonna design the
Ours
fall to
will
make sure
be
that.
linear and matching what's existing. It's just, like I said, it's not a linear line, it's up and down. It holds little pockets of water, which need to be addressed.
Okay.
But we will address that when we regrade the ditch, clean everything back up, that'll be.
Excuse me.
So really, the retaining wall will prevent actually drainage going in the other direction, right? So it's all going to keep all the drainage really on your property.
Everything falls to our retention area and then exits to the same ditch. But it comes to our retention area first. We're responsible for, all of our pay surface in the front and the rear also. So we're not changing any. We're just raising it up a little bit more, I would say, but everything's exactly the same retention, same drainage surfaces.
Any further questions? Any additional questions for Mr. Joyce or Mr. Epler? If not, you may be seated. Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3465? Anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3465? If there is nobody here to speak for or against Appeal 3465, I will close the open forum and ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve Appeal 3465 for a 16-foot rear yard setback variance to place a retaining wall 5 feet 3 inches from the property line. Property located at 1500 North Green Street, with conditions that it will not cause water to flow to adjacent properties, and that the evidence presented show that the grain of this appeal will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and that the fall protection will be provided the full length of the retaining wall. The granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, in that the footing of the retaining wall will be well below the frost line of the existing ditch, and allow the future improvements should there ever be any need to the ditch channel without interfering with the retaining wall. And the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, in that the other customers using the drive-through lane, that they will not have no exposure to the public safety or public traffic. And the standing water that has been observed in the ditch, regrading the basement should help alleviate this issue.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
Is there any further discussion concerning the motion? If not, I'll ask for a vote, please.
Mac,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Mr. Patel, Mr. Lowry or Lowry? Loney. Mr. Patel, Mr. Loney, thank you very much for your time. Appeal 3465 has been granted in your favor. Thank you for your evening. Meeting minutes of June 8th, 2022. May I get a motion to accept those minutes?
I make a motion to accept.
Second?
I wasn't here.
Okay. I'll second.
Yeah, whatever. I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Good vote?
Mac,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before the City of Henderson Board of Zoning Adjustment hearing this evening?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to make the, board aware that as of July 14th, which is tomorrow, the Kentucky Open Meetings Law will be changing. Under the new law, under the amended, open meetings, rules, that it will still allow video meetings. However, during video meetings, any member of the board must remain visible during all business of the meeting. And if one person is on there that makes the quorum and they fall off of the visuals, then the meeting must adjourn or be suspended until they get back on. So I just wanted you all to know that, but audio meetings will no longer be allowed. We will have to have visual of the people. Now, if tonight you have quorum, so if Heather fell off tonight, it wouldn't be a problem because we still have quorum. But if it were that one of you all were missing.
When you say fall, yeah, you're there, visible to, make your motion.
Yes.
Or whatever, and then you fall off, and then come back up for the next motion. Is
You
that
need to remain visible through the whole
the
thing.
whole meeting?
The whole, while business is going on. What I've told the city commission is, the beginning of our city commission, we sometimes have public, presentations, people, that's not really business. But after that, when business is, and that's what it says during business. So, and it doesn't give us, as Wayne can tell you, it doesn't give us a definition as to what it means by business. So to be conservative, we ought to be conservative.
So, as an example tonight, Heather fell off. We
Right,
had a quorum, we were able to go on.
right.
Had we not had a quorum when Heather fell off, I would have had to suspend the meeting until we got her back.
Yes.
Okay.
But when we got her back, she could still,
We
Have
keep
what?
going. We just have to stop the meeting during that. So that's just a change. And as you all know, every year you all get something from the Attorney General that you have to sign, and you all will be getting a new booklet. It's the Open Meetings, Open Records booklet. And it'll have all those changes. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because at the next meeting, that'll be the new rules we're working under.
okay, and I don't want to prolong the meeting more than necessary, but, well, I wasn't here last month because I was on my way back from bowling green.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have been to a lot of seminars in my career.
Uh-huh.
It was an outstanding seminar, and I meant to send everybody, the PowerPoint presentation with it. I will try to remember to do that tonight. But an interesting question came up. I don't think we have it very often, but there are times that the, architect or the builder or whatever will be here to represent the property owner, the applicant. And, one of the presenters, was a lawyer. And he said, anybody that does that is practicing law without a license, and you could get your board in trouble, doing that. So I don't know whether we want to have, Don research that, but I'd hate for something to come up and sometime 2 months later we get sued and, we allow a person to practice law without a license.
So the applicant cannot have somebody represent
The
them other
applicant-
than,
The applicant can be
Be
here.
here, right,
And-
and
and
have
ask-
the builder, and that's what we always ask, is that the applicant be here. But then the builder could come up and answer questions.
Yeah.
What he's saying is, if the builder represented the applicant,
That's what I'm
the
asking.
applicant wasn't here, then that would be, and that's one of the reasons we always say, and in fact, we have something going on right now that we talked to someone and I said, you've got to sign it and you got to be here. So, somebody else is going to present for it, you got to sign it and you got to be here.
Or you have to have an attorney
Right.
to do it.
so the only person that
At
can
our last-
represent you, if you're not here, is an attorney. Okay.
Or but what about a power of attorney? I would think a power of attorney. could
No,
represent you.
at our
I don't
last
think a
training,
power
they said
attorney-
not even a POA.
Yeah, I don't think a power of attorney would allow a person to
Uh-huh.
practice law.
Right.
No.
And
At the
that's-
last
well,
training we went to, they talked about that a lot.
appeal.
But see, I represent my mother with power of attorney and trustee. She could not physically come here. And so I would not be able to represent her
See, I
as
think,
her pro tem.
I think power of attorney would allow that, so that'll be something we'll need to read.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
the attorney that does our trainings, I specifically asked that question because we had just had a case in front of us where a POA came in and we approved their, variance. And so I asked that specific question, and he said in the Board of Zoning Adjustments, POAs are not allowed.
I'll have to research that, I'm not sure I agree with
Well,
that, for the
yeah.
very
I'm
reason
sure
that,
David would love to.
yeah, was it
Well,
David
yeah.
Pike that gave you the?
It was
I
David
can
Pike.
sell her property but not get a variance on her
Yeah,
property.
that just
David
doesn't
Price,
seem,
Yeah.
presented.
yeah.
Well, but you couldn't prepare the deed. The deed has,
Well, she can't prepare the deed.
no,
But
you can sign and sell her property, but the deed with which you sell the property has to be prepared by an attorney.
yeah. But,
I think the main thing
My
is
phone did.
yeah.
that the applicant is present.
Yeah, we need, at every opportunity, we need to make sure the applicant is present, but I do question the POA. If you could look into that and let us know at the next meeting. Sometimes I think David Pike goes a little beyond his.
Well, he makes a lot of money doing it.
What he's talking about is big cases where they're gonna go to the appeal, you know,
Okay.
if a development's coming in and they,
Well, we've had some contentious ones, there's always a possibility.
right.
but-
Well, that's why we do findings of facts every time,
Yeah.
because we wanna make sure that if it ever gets appealed, we're ready.
Yeah, and y'all do great motion.
Yep.
Any other business to come before this board tonight? Any other business? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
I got 3 motions to adjourn.
Someone's
gonna win a second, that one is. No, but I was curious,